Hello, and welcome to Misplaced Musings, episode number 8. This is Brian Cowan. I am joined by my co host.
Shannon Duffy.
And today we are going to be talking about simulators, right? Simulations,
Yeah,
farming sim.
farming sim, simulation games in general. Sim Ant, Sim City, Sim Zebra.
Sim Earth.
I never played Sim Earth.
City skylines. I don't know. But what mainly provoked this was farming sims, right? Because you were not super enthusiastic about the Nintendo Direct that came out this week that was full of farming sims.
Okay, I did like the direct. I just disliked how many farming sims were in the direct.
Ah. I mean, every franchise needs at least one entry that is a farming sim.
You know, you're right. Let's have a Mortal Kombat farming sim where you're farming bodies and giving them to Shang Tsung. That's
I just actually like in my head when you brought I was imagining that it takes place in like Outworld or the Nether Realm
yeah.
and yeah you're like farming the souls that would be fun. Look at that, you created one.
Yeah, no,
You
I
could
have a
I was gonna say you could have a Street Fighter one, and it's kind of the story is that it's like Ryu or somebody is training, and they're using farming as like their training between fights.
Oh my god, I'm so hyped for Street Fighter 6 today. The Capcom Direct thing or whatever, the showcase at Tokyo Game Show
Oh, did they show
showed.
off more of that like story mode thing?
Yeah, they did. You can do things like spinning bird kick over holes. You actually fly using spinning bird kick.
Okay, that sounds awesome. I haven't watched
Yeah.
that yet, but I was excited for the game already, so I'm sure that'll make me more excited.
It seems like it's going to be the best story content for Street Fighter ever. And that is very exciting. I want more single player experiences in fighting games so we can get more casual players to get more into fighting games. So,
You mean you can't have just like Mortal Kombat and Soul Calibur doing all the heavy lifting on that end?
not man, Mortal Kombat has been so good about that through the years. Holy crap. Even Deadly Alliance and stuff, just aces when it comes to single player content.
Yeah, some of it's like if you go back and play it now, it hasn't aged well. It's really janky, but at the time, yeah, that the open world going between like the different realms and stuff and doing all the little quests, like it was awesome.
Oh, it was very well done. Unlike farming simulators, which are not.
Oh
They're
yeah, that's what we're talking about, farming simulators. Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
let's take it back to the beginning. Like, for the record, for the
Mhm.
listeners, I do like farming simulators. So this will be a fun dynamic since Shannon does not.
Mhm.
So let's go back to the beginning though. What is your first experience with the genre?
So, Sim in general, my first experience was SimCity on the Super Nintendo, which had a cool green haired guy. The monster was replaced by King Koopa, which was pretty damn cool. And I played hours of that, not knowing what the hell I was doing because I was 6. But for farming sims, it was Harvest Moon, one of the Harvest Moons for a system, and I don't remember because they're all the same. And and I just remember being like, all right, so what am I doing? I'm making farming stuff. Okay, I'm making crops. What's the point? The point is just to make crops. All right, what's the end goal? Do I have a money goal to meet? Oh, I'm supposed to marry somebody. I don't care. Like I don't want to harvest turnips so I can fill up a happiness gauge on a person and make them want to be married to me. And most of those games, Rune Factory, Harvest Moon, they tend to be that way. Stardew Valley, like they all that's the mechanic I don't like. That's what I don't enjoy. If my end game was get this much money, do this, whatever, I think I'd be a little bit more okay with it.
That makes sense. I know you're not fond of like relationship systems in general. So that does make sense because that is, yeah, kind of a cornerstone of that genre.
Yeah, it's a twofer because I have to say it all the time, but I am asexual, and I'm not quite arrow ace, but romance isn't on my high top of anything as far as my list. So I
What's
just
an
kind of
arrow
don't
ace?
care. An arrow ace is an aromantic asexual because asexuals do not necessarily have to not have romantic feelings. It's just not being attracted, right? So an arrow ace is aromantic asexual, which means they do not feel romantic feelings towards people either.
Hmm,
Mhm.
interesting.
Yes, that is the difference between the two of, a romantic asexual and an aromantic asexual. But also, I feel it's way too gamey. And what's funny is I like dating sims because of how gamey they are. So I'm excited to play something like Tokimeki Memorial, whereas, because it's the main focus of the game. However, I still feel it's kind of gross because you're essentially, if you look at it as not just a video game, manipulating people to like you because they're an object to win. And that's
That
just kind of gross to me.
I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
I don't. It's not. I've never thought of it as gross, but that is. I frequently bring up why people engage in those things and why they like things like romancing people in The Sims or
Hmm.
romancing in like Mass Effect, and it's because um it's it's predictable and it's winnable, right? Like
Hmm.
whereas like real life relationship dynamics, you can quote unquote do everything right, but still, not get the person you're going after because people have agency and they may not be into you. Um, Whereas in the game, it's like if you do everything right, you get the relationship. You win. Like it is a fair system to you. I'm not saying real life,
Yeah,
dating's unfair, but there's another person there. Whereas, in
exactly.
um, so it makes sense. I'm not saying that's necessarily healthy to encourage that kind of thinking either, um, but
Right.
I get
Yeah.
why it's satisfying is because it's like I brought you the flowers you like, and look, your little like meter went up. Whereas in real life, you might bring the girl flowers and she might be like, that, she might have a negative reaction, and you're like, I did not predict that.
Yeah. Or it doesn't matter what you do; they might just not be into you, and that's
Exactly.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. Sometimes people just aren't into you, and you have to let that go. But um,
But you don't have to
yeah,
let that go in Harvest Moon, where you can force them to like you with your acorns. Oh.
I mean, and to be fair, going outside of that system, that's one of the reasons Sims are satisfying to a lot of people in general is because even outside of dating, everything works that way, right? It's like, um, you can go do your little sim job, and you have the little meter you have to fill up, and then your boss's satisfaction meter goes up, and you see that you need to fill that up 7 times, and then you get a promotion, and then you get a raise, and it's all very streamlined and with clear goals and clear ways of accomplishing those goals and then clear rewards, and it's like a lot of people are like, man, that this is so much more satisfying than real life. If my real job worked this way, I would be much happier. Whereas your real job, it's like you can go in and give 150% and your boss never even learns your name.
Oh yeah, the grind can hurt, but in these simulators, it does not because you can eventually reach the top,
There is no top, sir. You just keep grinding.
or you can just keep grinding. That's
I
fair.
was
You can
just
just
gonna say, for me, one of the reasons I like the genre so much is because I'm just that's one of the things that gives me a healthy dose of dopamine or whatever is like grinding and watching my little numbers go up, or in that case, like seeing my farm get bigger, seeing my harvests get bigger, making more money, watching those numbers go up, and seeing it just makes me happy.
I can understand that. I totally get it. And most Sims besides farming Sims, I can get. I like SimCity. I'm trying to like Jurassic World Evolution. except it's making me play the stupid plot line to get to the fun bits, which is just making a giant park without having to deal with plotline stuff. But no, not here. You have to unlock it through stupid plotline things.
So let me ask, if you did have a sandbox where you got to build your Jurassic Park, are you the kind of person who's going to have like the perfect park that runs like clockwork, or are you going to be the person who is like does weird chaotic things that cause the deaths of both visitors and dinosaurs for your own personal amusement?
Por qué no los dos?
Ah, yeah, yeah. I see. I remember a long time ago I was listening to I think it was a Retronauts episode, and they said that like Sim City is a great like personality test, litmus test, because if you watch how people build their cities, it tells you a lot about a person. You know, if somebody's like, look at my city, this is my perfect city, and it's like a police state with like a police station on every corner, and taxes are super high, and city ordinances are like you can't walk on the sidewalk without a permit. You're like, hey, so that guy's probably got some issues.
They are true lawful. That's what they are.
Or like in The Sims, where you'll do awful things like get your neighbor to go into the pool and then delete the ladder so they drown eventually, or
Or
starve to death or whatever, just because you wanted to take their house.
or remove, like, if they go to the bathroom, you remove the door, put a wall, and just let them die in the toilet. Yeah.
Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah, I've heard stories about that. See, I don't do that as much because I don't think that's fun. Like, what I would do is I would make the park work like clockwork and be absolutely perfect. And then when I'm about to close for the day is when I would just break open a Tyrannosaurus pen and watch for 5 minutes, and then I would close the game.
That is satisfying. I when I was younger, I liked like I'd build Sim City type stuff, build a big sprawling city, and I loved like turning tornadoes loose on it or whatever. But as I've gotten older, I will still leave random disasters enabled, but I don't trigger them intentionally anymore. Because it's become more satisfying to me, the building process. Although in city builders, one of the most satisfying things for me is like when my city has grown and traffic becomes an issue, and I get to go like tear down a bunch of buildings to widen roads,
Ah, okay.
stuff like that. Like seeing problems and then figuring out solutions, like and they work. Um, and I think it's okay. So saying that out loud, I think one of the things Sims do for people is they give you a sense of control
Yes, for sure.
that you don't often have in real life, and that is probably one of the reasons they're very appealing to people.
Yeah, so I definitely think that's part of it. I also think the uh, the aspect of being orderly is something some people really like. And a few people play Sims to do stupid stuff like make death roller coasters or whatever. But most people I know that are really into them and play them a lot like having a nice, orderly setup that works as intended at all times and is very organized, and they just get to watch it like a little like clock village, right?
I'm a little bit of that. I mean, with those kind of games, the genre is kind of bigger than that too. Like we're not touching on everything obviously, because there's things like
There's so many, yeah.
I love to play historical simulations. And grand, like a lot of the grand strategy games are hybrid simulators, like things like Crusader Kings and Romance of Three Kingdoms and stuff. And the the parts of those games that are the funnest for me are the parts that have nothing to do with like the battle systems or anything. It's the sitting there and like administering your kingdom and like that kind of stuff. I don't know. It's weird because in real life I hate the idea of micromanagement, but in a video game I'm like, give me as much micromanagement as possible.
You know which one really stood out to me is I loved Sim Hotel. I spent hours on my little crappy hand-me-down computer when I was a kid.
I have not played that one, so go ahead
Yeah.
and describe the Sim Hotel.
You just make it a hotel.
You're like the
Yeah.
owner or like the manager, all of that.
It's unless I'm thinking of something else, like
Do you build scratch type stuff?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, Sim Tower is what I'm thinking of. Sorry.
Oh, see, I also never played that, but I remember
Yeah.
seeing it when I go to like CompUSA or whatever. Um,
Yeah, yeah, no. The game I'm thinking of is Sim Tower, where you're
Running a high
building.
rise.
Yeah, yeah. It's just a construction and management sim, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool. It's a modern multi-use skyscraper. You could have restaurants in there and places for people to stay if you wanted, and that's why I called it Sim Hotel in my head. Because I also have not played since I was like 10,
Oh,
so
that makes
it's
sense.
been, it's been a while. But I loved it. It was so fun, and you could make this giant place. And I always had a bunch of restaurants underground because I thought the idea of an underground little area was really cool, because the only place I ever lived where you could build underground was Nebraska, and that was only for like 6 years. Everywhere else I lived, you cannot have basements or build underground.
I feel you. Like
Yeah,
in Texas, basements are very rare. Um, but and oddly enough, I lived in Nebraska for a year, and that was the only time I ever lived somewhere with a basement.
there's
Um,
lots of parallels, but
yeah. Taking it back for a second, because obviously you do really enjoy parts of the simulator genre, and I know so with farming sims, obviously the relationship systems that are in most of them are a big deal breaker for you. So if those were removed, like if you had a game that was just farming sim, like I don't know, Farmville, uh,
so if I was able to click on stuff and not walk a character around and have to do it, that's a big part too. The
so
ability to set up automation, the ability to like actual eye bird's eye view setting up a simulator.
have
Whereas
you
these,
played any of the like actual farming simulator games, like Farming Simulator 2021 or
I
whatever?
have not, and that could be something that I would enjoy. It's mostly the Harvest Moon style, or like games like, even what's the one on the Nintendo property that everybody likes?
Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing. Stuff like that is also just not my favorite. It's I think
So you would be more happy with, because to me it sounds like you aren't liking the more RPG elements that are attached to the farming simulator.
I think so, and I was thinking about it because I was playing Rune Factory 3, which a lot of people tell me is the Rune Factory game to play. And a big part of why I'm not enjoying it is the time limit on absolutely everything and the energy limit on your character. Like if I wanted to go do the combat side of things, which I do more often than the other stuff, not only do you have a health meter, you have an energy meter that goes down every time you swing your weapon. And so you have to like only explore the dungeon for a little while, because if you go too far, you'll pass out and you'll miss the rest of the day. So that being attached, and it's in Harvest Moon too, like the meter where
Yeah,
you'll
I was gonna
pass out if
say,
you work too hard or whatever.
it also reminds me of that's basically how dungeons work in Monster Rancher as well.
Mm-hmm. And part of this is just me being a brat, but I want to do the stuff I want to do as long as I want to do it. And that friction works for some people, but for me, it's gating the part of the game I want and making me do stuff I don't. And if I want to do things I don't want to do, I'll just go to work. Like,
I get that. I think there are, but like I get why it's there. You like it's obviously to keep you from like getting the resources that come with those areas, too much. It would break the balance of the game. But it's like an artificial limit. It would be better rather than giving you like a meter. It would just be better if they like made the dungeon difficulty increase, at a steep rate to
mhm.
encourage you to be like, oh well, I'm getting my butt kicked. I better quit for the day.
Yeah,
Whereas way you feel like it's your choice to stop, not oh the game's making me stop.
or I would
I
rather just have an actual time limit, like time dropping down. That's different to me. It's that stupid stamina meter. It just drives me insane. I I sit there and I think about it, and I'm like, if it just said you, because you also have a time meter in the game as well. So not only are you having to do things by a specific time, you also have to manage that meter that will eventually make you pass out. And all the Harvest Moons and everything are like that, right? Like I'm not incorrect on that.
I've only played like two Harvest Moons, so I won't tell you I'm an expert, but I
Mhm.
think um and I mean I feel yeah. I also some games like I also don't like those kind of limits, and I also don't like limits to the amount of time I can play a game because I know some of those kinds of farming simulators have that kind of stuff where it's like you can play for 700 days and then the game ends. I'm like, but I don't want the game to end. I want to keep farming forever.
Right.
Like, I want to farm. Well, why can't I farm for 300 years? Um,
Oh, an example of a part sim, part RPG I liked is Recetier, or Recetier, or however you say it.
Racketeer.
Racketeer, however you want to.
I'm,
I don't know how to say it.
I'm a very American white guy. I'm going to say Racketeer.
Okay.
That's the one that's a store
You're a
simulator.
merchant. Yeah. Mhm.
It's like you are the shopkeeper in a JRPG,
Yes.
but then you also don't you have to go into dungeons to get supplies or something. It reminds me of the See now I'm gonna be confused about how to say something. The Atelier games, whatever the
Atelier
Rorona and
or something. Yeah.
how yeah, I don't like
Atelier.
trying to
Yeah.
say French words out loud. But yeah, isn't that the same concept except for like just more or
Mhm.
bigger, or whatever you want to call it? Like you run a store and you have to like gather resources and do crafting. And I know you also don't like crafting systems, so I assume
No.
a farming sim that ties a crafting system in would probably piss you off.
Yeah. That's that's also a part of it because I'm sitting here and it's like I have to get enough stuff to make my thing, but then I also have to get enough stuff to sell, and then I have to do all this, and then I have a time limit. And then I'm sitting here thinking, this is just a job. I'm just working to get to play
See,
the fun part. But I could just turn this off and go play Devil May Cry, and then I just get the fun part.
see
Like,
that's like on the reverse. That is the appeal for me, and so I'll get to it. It's kind of a thing where there's a guilt in the back of my head, but it's like to me, I'm like, yes, it is like a job, but it's a job with like clear goals that I can be very good at. And of course, in the back of my head, it's like, this is like the ultimate waste of time playing a video game, right? You are playing a video game to maximize your productivity in a video game. Like, go do something else. But I'm like, but no, it feels good. Um,
oh yeah, oh yeah, let's get that 1% up rate. You know, like
exactly. It's like, look out, and it's also one of the worst things to show to friends because you're like, dude, check out this farm I made, and then you spend like 15 minutes talking about how efficiently your farm mate runs, and there the whole time they're just like, this is a bummer. Like, and I am not shitting on people. I enjoy these games. I'm just saying,
right.
it is things with Stardew Valley and stuff. I'll say they have more like if you're the kind of person who's like I like Stardew Valley for the whole package and like I love the characters and the relationships with the characters and their stories and stuff, that's one thing. But if you're again, if you're just like, for me it's maximizing my efficiency and productivity, it's like, if you did that outside of the game, it would probably be more beneficial to you, like maybe maximize your efficiency and productivity doing like real world tasks. I don't know. Um and that's me projecting because I feel that way. I'm like, man, if I if I took the energy I'm putting into this farming sim and I put it into like one of my hobbies, uh I would be I'd be awesome.
I
But it
mean,
doesn't feel
that's
as
the
good
thing.
because it's not as simple. It's not I don't have as much control.
Yeah, and that also leads to a conversation we could have for another day. But people's idea that doing their hobbies that makes them relax is a waste of time is really just not healthy. It's most people are only productive for like 5 hours out of the day max. Humans are not efficient. Like
Says you.
we can focus really hard on a thing for a while, but then our quality dips really hard if we don't take breaks repeatedly.
See, but
And
and that's why we have the pharmaceutical industry to make up for that with you know, lovely medication. I'm
that's why you just drink two bangs and 600 milligrams of caffeine and get to it. Just
our it'll be interesting to see the consequences on our generation when we get older of like the massive amounts of caffeine and then things like Adderall and stuff. At like 60, all our brains are just gonna like liquefy or something.
yeah, no, it's not great, but honestly, that that part of the sim, ticking it to go up, right? That's that's kind of what makes the Sims fun, like for different sim games. There are a couple I've played a lot. I actually really like deity simulators. I think what Populous was one of the first big ones, right?
Yeah, and black and white, and there are more. There's that one that's like, what is it called? You could be like, I think actually the one I'm thinking of, I think was more of an RTS, but it was you could be different gods. Damn it, whatever. But yeah, black and white comes to mind, and populace and goddess, which was like god which was like
Oh, that whole thing. Yeah.
game. Yeah, yeah, that kind of
There's
stuff. Freaking ActRaiser.
Oh, ActRaiser is part, yeah, it's part Godson, part platformer. ActRaiser is really fun.
Yeah, yeah.
There's one that's recent called Worldbox God Simulator that I actually really enjoy. I play sometimes. It's
If
relaxing to create a world and then populate it with dwarves and elves and stuff and just see it happen.
if you think about it, all games are kind of a god simulator, sir.
Don't don't start this. Don't do
You see,
this.
because you are controlling the lives
No.
of the
No.
things in the game,
No.
and like that you have ultimate power, sir. Like if I start Final
Bad,
Fantasy VIII,
Brian.
if I
Bad.
start Final Fantasy VIII and then I turn it off without completing it, that's a god move right there. Squall's story will never be finished, and I used my god power to do that.
Every game is an RPG. Every game is a farming sim. I hate it. No, we have structure for a reason.
So whenever we first started talking about farming sims, this is not a farming sim, but one of the things that popped into my head was like Age of Empires 2, because like I was just thinking about laying down all the little farm plots to gather like the food resource.
Mhm.
I'm like, I did a lot of farming in that game. Is that a farm simulator?
Oh, you should be doing more hunting. It's more efficient.
I killed all the animals like in the first like part of my campaign, man.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, no, you do that, but by the time
that's
you're
what
building
humans
a bunch of farms, you should be killing
that,
them.
that's what humans do, man. We move to an area, we kill all the deer, and then when we're out of deer, we plant corn or whatever.
When we're done with deer, we plant potato. No,
And, and then eventually, the climate turns on us because we
oh
wreck
no,
everything, and then we die, and then
we're
it
getting
starts over.
too we're getting too real. Oh, another part of my
Hey,
farming sims. What was that?
no, no, no. Go ahead. I was just gonna continue my nonsense.
Oh, that's good. But part of why farming sims also don't hit is I grew up in Nebraska for a few formative years. And in Nebraska, you are taught farming at like age 8 because everybody, where at least where I lived, which was a village of roughly 800 people, I think 40% or 50% of them were all farmers. So the school taught a lot of farming courses.
Yeah,
I learned
backwards
that
farming.
it's backwards Nebraskan farm. Actually, we're credited with a lot of the methods of rotational farming Thank you very
We're
much.
you are now
Where
claiming Nebraska.
I'm claiming Nebraskan. Yeah. Listen,
I will give Nebraska Arbor Day because I will give them that they are good with trees and they are good with corn.
Mhm.
Um, they
and
know
have
that they
yeah, yeah,
named their football team after corn.
they did, and some of the best beef farms in the country as far as
Oh,
quality
you
of beef.
don't even.
Listen, quality over quantity, Mister Texas. All
Yeah,
right.
we have both. We have both.
No, you just have one, and that's quantity. Anyhow,
But no, I get what you're saying, and it's kind of funny because like I also grew up like my grandfather, my uncle, like my whole family except for my mother, farmers in West Texas. And so but it hits different for me because I'm like, oh, I like farming. Like I am nostalgic for farming. Farming's part of my life. So whenever I see these farm things, I'm like, yeah, farming. Um, where it seems like it's the opposite for you. You're like, ugh, more farming.
well, yeah, because so I grew up in Italy until I was 7, and then I moved to Nebraska. So I went from Italy to farm place, and then I went from no farming knowledge to everything is farming knowledge.
Don't they farm like pasta or something in Italy? I don't know.
Mm. I was gonna say something, but it was very rude, and I will not do that. I will be
Parmesan
polite.
cheese farms or
I might stop being polite very soon.
okay.
I
Grapes. They do grapes there. Okay, I know they do grapes. That's not a joke. They have
they also
vineyards.
have a lot of buffalo farms. Actually,
That's a lie.
I my my sister's godfather is the owner of one of the largest water buffalo farms in the country.
Okay, water buffalo aren't real buffalo.
Amorone me che fa. I, I,
I was
so,
confused because I was thinking of like the North American bison, and I was like, they don't have those in Italy. I mean, they might, but I didn't know they had those in
uh,
Italy. But
yeah, no, so, okay. We're gonna do a little lesson.
hey, and this is one of the importance of the simulation genre is it can teach people a lot about geography and world history.
Yeah, so also, there's a particular breed of buffalo that Italy has.
The
Alright?
Italian buffalo, spaghetti buffalo.
Bufala Mediterranea Italiana. Or,
See, if you didn't tell me what that is, I could assume it was an Italian food dish.
or the Mediterranean buffalo. Italian Mediterranean buffalo. It is a breed of water buffalo, but it is specific to Italy. And that is the buffalo where some of the prized mozzarella de bufala, comes from, which is why they have a lot of water buffalo farms in Italy because it's important to make that mozzarella because it's delicious.
Well, today I learned. Are there any Italian water buffalo management simulator games?
I
Because if there's
wish
not, that is an untapped market, sir.
it is an untapped market. You know what simulators got weird for me? When they got into the really offbeat ones. Like that Surgeon Simulator game that is obviously a goof, or Goat Simulator.
Yeah. Well, actually, so today I was scrolling through the PlayStation Plus catalog, like the free games or whatever,
Yeah.
free. And there's quite a few simulators in there, and yeah, I was one of them's lawnmower simulator, and I was just like, what?
I was watching a friend stream Power Washing Simulator.
See, and that's when so earlier when I was saying, it feels good to like maximize your
Yeah.
efficiency in those, but maybe you should apply that to real life. It's like
Huh.
that's where those start to get kind of bad. It's just like, man, I am the best in the world at Mechanic Simulator 2020, and it's like maybe you should go be a mechanic. Nah, it's like that is just I normally don't tell people anything's a waste of time because you know how I think. I'm like
Yeah,
nothing waste of time because your time doesn't actually matter. So everything
exactly.
as much as you think it is. But in that case, I'm kind of like that is as close to a waste of time as I can imagine. Where you're like, I have mastered a very specific simulator about a very real world job, but I have no interest in that real job. It's like that's odd.
Yes, that is all. Those are the things that I don't quite understand. You got it. Yeah, it's like truck simulator too, stuff like that. But I
Some of
guess
those
people
like
really want to
long
drive.
haul, yeah, those long haul simulators and stuff are really popular with like their niche or whatever. And so the part of simulators that I recently stumbled across is Japan loves simulations, and we don't get most of them because I
Mhm.
assume Japanese publishers are like Americans won't buy a Japanese subway simulator. Um, so, but I've looked through them recently, and it's like to this day still they make like construction simulators and train simulators and stuff that are Japanese exclusives that are
Mm,
and business simulators, stuff like that. Like, and very few of them have English patches, even. So it's not like you can go in
play
their
them,
language
yeah.
or a simulator. But uh, it's fascinating to me because I'm like, I kind of wanna try one of these train simulators, train driving simulator. I've done like Railroad Tycoon where you run a railroad, but this is different. This is like driving a train, which I've always been like I don't see the appeal because it's on tracks. Like how hard can that be, right? But there's
Mhm.
apparently a lot to it if it's that popular.
Oh yeah, there has to be something to it. I mean, everybody enjoys something. Like, what was this one game that I was seeing? It's gonna dip away from the Japanese Sims, but I think Dyson Sphere program.
I
That
am not with that, but that did remind me of like Universe
yeah.
Simulator or whatever and stuff. There's some cool space ones that I assume that one you build a Dyson sphere.
Yes. Harness the power of the stars, collect resources, plan and design production lines, develop your interstellar factory from a small space workshop to a galaxy-wide industrial empire.
Dyson spheres. I'm more into the crap, what's it called? The cylinder. I forget the guy's name. The thing that Gundam, the original, like the UC,
Oh, right, right. Okay.
it's another science concept, and it's a something cylinder, and whatever. Anyway, that sounds cool. I would check out a Dyson sphere simulator.
Yeah, it looks up your alley. Actually, I think when you actually play video games again. I
I mean
think.
that is my alley. Those high sci-fi concepts are always cool to me, and
Yeah.
it also makes me think about how ridiculous humanity is because we're like we have a concept for this supposedly possible technological concept, right? And we're like, this is something that a civilization at level whatever could build.
Right.
And I'm like, right, but we've never seen one. We have no examples of any. We haven't like it's such a theoretical piece of nonsense, but it's
Yeah.
so cool. Um,
That's part of what humanity likes to do is be very silly and think about stuff, but then eventually get there, which is what makes them fun.
I mean, yeah, like that's uh these days we tend to focus on obviously like science is truth and science is fact, and we like to separate that from fiction, like with a hard line, which is good because you should. But I think we're taking for granted that like what drives people to go to science and make those big discoveries is often like a fascination with nonsense, like
Mhm.
growing up like watching ridiculous sci-fi and then being like, look, I got into science and built rocket engines or some shit.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I
Oh,
played to pull it back. I played a bunch of ridiculous nonsense simulators, and then that got me into doing real science or something. I played Kerbal Space
I mean, I'm sure
Sim.
people that played Kerbal Space Program got like kids would be into wanting to be an astronaut. It's
I
just,
love that game. I'm
yeah,
just very bad at it.
same. It took a small team of engineers in my chat when I streamed it to get me to the moon.
I love it. I never got to the moon, the Mon or whatever it's called, Mun.
Yeah,
I forget.
one.
I love it just because the gameplay loop in it for me is amazing. Where it's like I'll build a little craft, right, and then I'll try to fly it, and it'll fail, and then I'll make little refinements to it. I'm like, now it's the whatever, the Falcon Mark II, and then that one fails, and I make little refinements, and I'm like Mark III, and then 6 hours later, I'm like, okay, we're at the Mark 32, and we've made it into the orbit of Earth, and I'm like, I like that loop of progress of like trial and error feels very satisfying.
Yes, I totally get that. And oh, a type of sim that we kind of touched on briefly. Military sims are pretty cool, in my
Yes,
opinion.
yeah, I
Which
know some people are like, oh, it's typical like boys like or crappy guys liking warfare stuff and getting obsessed with it, but it's like I have a lot of fun with them.
yeah, would Europa Versalis, would that be like
I would say so. That
military
was the
sim?
one when I said Crusader Kings, I was thinking of that, but I wasn't sure, but I would say so. And then like what's the other one? Iron same company makes their World War II one, and it's called like Iron something.
Let's see.
We did no research for this episode, by the way, listeners. This is all off the cuff.
Hey, well, we have a lot of knowledge. Apparently, some for some reason. Looking Steel Division.
Maybe
Is it
is
Steel
that's
Division?
Paradox, right? Yeah,
Uh,
Paradox Interactive, and it's cool. Paradox Interactive video games.
Paradox.
People love it when podcast hosts like Google crap while they're on an episode.
Well, listen, it's all good. Would
Yeah,
World
I
of
might be
War
making this up. There's no Iron game. Hearts of Iron. That's what I was thinking
Hearts
of.
of Iron? Okay. Um. Oh, flight sim. How can we not talk about flight and racing sims when we talk about simulator games?
Right.
Those
See,
are
this
like
genre is
is
so, and I mean, it's a parent genre because it's so
yes.
diverse, right? Because it's like a racing sim has nothing in common with Harvest Moon. Like, the people who play like Gran Turismo or something, if you were like, oh yeah, that's in the same genre as Harvest Moon, they're gonna be like, you what? Um, so it is such a diverse genre.
It absolutely is, and like I
Some listeners,
know.
those actually aren't in the same genre, and y'all lost track of where y'all were at some point.
Oh, who cares? Whatever.
I
Mister
forgot about
Everything is an RPG. But
Mountain Blade is another good one, the medieval simulator.
oh, Mountain Blade is cool. I was thinking there's that one racing sim that everybody is it iRacing, I think. It's the big one where they actually have people with technology drive the courses while recording
Oh,
and
that's cool.
like getting all the bumps and everything and trying to transfer that into the game so you get an actual experience of going around the different courses.
See, that sounds fun, but I'm kind of okay. So I like a mix, like a Gran Turismo, where it's like it has some simulator elements, but it also
Right.
has still some arcade stuff because I'm like, I want to have fun. I don't want to be like driving's hard. Like, um, I still want to have fun. I don't want physics to be quite what they are in real life. Because real life isn't nearly as fun.
I mean, fair enough.
It's not. I mean, that's the first time. So flight simulators. You brought up flight simulators. If you're a person who loves playing like Ace Combat, and you're like, man, I love flying planes, and then you're like, oh, Microsoft Flight Simulator, I'll hop on this, and you're just gonna be like, well, this kind of flying sucks. like, like this kind of flying is hard, and I can't just do crazy loop de loops and aerobatics without like actually knowing what I'm doing. It's like the first time like I'll play something like Battlefield, and I'm like, I'm good at like Ace Combat and shit. I can fly. So I hop in a helicopter and immediately crash it into the ground, and I'm like, why was that so hard? Why is it so hard to fly a
Oh
helicopter?
yeah. Like I'll try Gran Turismo and I'll just suck. So I'm gonna just go back to Daytona USA and just scream Daytona as I'm sliding
Yeah,
against the
you're a
wall and stuff.
NASCAR driver, man.
Yeah, Daytona. Just enjoying it, and the only thing that I have to worry about is not wrecking. Nothing else is important. My turns feel just instantly happen. I don't have to think about the weight of the vehicle. It's beautiful.
I felt so good in that game. Like last time I played it, because it was the first time I played it, and it was the first time I played it where I was an adult in an arcade,
Mhm.
by the way,
Right.
and I had enough money to keep playing it. And I'm old enough now, and I've driven real cars. Anyway, it was the first time I figured out what drafting is and how to like I knew what drafting was going into it,
Right.
but I realized that's in that game, and I was consistently pulling it off because younger me who 12-year-old Brian playing Daytona USA did not know what drafting was. What's this weird thing that happens sometimes? I don't know. Um,
Fair enough.
it's weird, some of those mechanics that you don't get as a kid. Like
Oh, for
your first
sure.
time playing Mario Kart, you're like, why did I like burn out at the beginning, and like I don't understand. And they're like, you held down the gas, and I'm like, but the gas makes you go.
The gas makes you go, yeah. Or like, why am I losing money when I bought this expensive thing in this, in this
Yeah,
city? Like, shouldn't it just make me more money? And then it's not like attached to anything, and it's just sitting there.
yeah.
Oh,
You're like, I don't understand these concepts. um,
yeah. I just thought I was supposed to buy it. What do you mean I have to put it next to an energy source? It's yeah. To bring it back to like the actual Sims we were talking about, the stuff like SimCity and then the farm Sims. Just to wrap it up, I've been trying to get into those farming sim style RPG things more, just because so many people love them, and I feel like I'm missing something out by not enjoying them. So I might try Harvestella. I'll try the demo and see if that's something I'm into. But if not, I might just give up on the genre and just stick with my clicky number go up
so
stuff.
hearing what you are saying, I love a lot of these games. Like I've played, a bunch of Stardew Valley and tons of like Sims games, and the few times I played Harvest Moon, I played a lot of it. Like I love this kind of stuff, and I love other simulators to death. But as far as farming simulators go, based on the things you have said, I honestly I don't know if it is gonna be the genre to hook you, and I think that's absolutely okay.
Mhm.
Like maybe there is one that'll hook you. It's just to all the ones I can think of, all the big standout like cornerstones of that genre have elements that you have described as like not fun for you to engage with.
Yes.
So it's just like sometimes that kind of stuff's okay. It's okay that you don't want to engage in something like that. I I would have to think about it. I'm not sure what I have that's similar. I'm sure there are like gameplay systems and elements and stuff that like are just major turnoffs for me. I would just have to think about it. But if you have something like that and you are 100% aware of it, I think it's perfectly fine to be like, that's not the genre for me. Even though people will be like, but dude, Stardew Valley is the greatest game ever, and it's like, not for me though, and that's okay.
Yeah, well, it doesn't help that like all these companies that I like in the indie space are just making a bunch of these things. And then in the not as indie space, people are still making a bunch of them, and it's like they're all over.
I
And
mean,
I'm
it's
like,
a.
my
I
goodness.
imagine from a gameplay like a design standpoint, it's a straightforward genre to develop in.
Yeah, no, that my joke is like the last year is basically every game is Dead Space or a farming sim is what it feels like the last few events that we've watched.
Dead Space, or well, I mean, the yeah. So yesterday was that was yesterday, right? The Nintendo
Nintendo
Direct.
Direct and the Sony
It's
State
been
of
a
Play,
long
yeah.
week. Having a newborn child at home makes I don't understand what day it is half the time. But
Yes.
so yesterday, the Nintendo Direct was all farming, right? And then followed up by the Sony show, which I felt like was all like Ghost of Tsushima, basically. Like
Yes.
I was just like, oh look, a samurai game and another samurai game. Okay, it's all samurai games. So yeah, sometimes I get you. Sometimes it does feel like I guess they're called paradigms or trends or whatever, and sometimes they're
Yeah.
heavily felt where you're like, okay, and we'll go through those things where it's like everything's a third person shooter, or everything's a rhythm game, or
Yeah.
whatever. And I guess we're in farming simulator era, which at any point in the past, had you asked me, oh, what are the trends that you think will dominate the industry in the future? I would have never said farming simulator.
Listen, I never would have said RNG based roguelike card games either. But those are a thing that happens. I in the indie space anyway. In the main game space, it wasn't as big. Even though roguelites started getting more popular because of Hades and stuff, but we're going really off topic, and I think we're about at the end of the topic anyway.
Hey,
so
roguelites are a death simulator, sir.
So, Brian, where can they find you?
We're not even going to do our music? I see. I picked out a song and everything.
Joking aside. All right, what's the song you picked out, Brian?
Yeah, that's how we're going to go into this guy. Okay, so on these longer episodes, you know what? Actually, I'm fine with putting music even in the minis. I don't even care anymore. Whatever. But people like music. Like at least one of our listeners gives good feedback on music.
Yes.
But so mine, I was like, oh, we're doing a show about simulators, so I will pick one from a simulator. And I took a low hanging fruit because I went with SimCity. Man, I had all this stuff pulled up yesterday. I'm not even gonna go Google it, but whatever. It's from City 4. It's the Megatropolis, right? That's the one I picked.
Yeah, Metropolis.
Metropolis, yeah. Well, I had like the composer and all that pulled up yesterday, and whatever. So the two SimCities I put the most hours into were 2000 on the PlayStation, and then SimCity 4 on my PC. And I played a crap ton of SimCity 4. So the soundtrack's like burned into my head. And I will say in general, the simulation genre, when it comes to like business management, city building, that kind of stuff, the ones that are not, have no action really, tend to have really killer soundtracks. And I think it's because, like there is no action. So you're going to be sitting there for like 6 hours building roads. It better have some good music to listen to that doesn't drive you insane.
Right.
And SimCity 4 has some good music, and it also has, like a dynamic soundtrack where the music changes depending on what's going on. Like if you have like high level traffic, you get like a specific amount of kind of music. If it's nighttime, there's a certain music. When you first go to lay your city out and it's just an empty field, there's a certain track that plays. Like it's dynamic. But this one is one I heard a lot, and I really enjoy it. So that's what I picked.
Awesome. Let's get into it.
And we're back. I don't know if you played SimCity 4, Shannon.
I have not played 4.
Dude, what the hell's wrong with you? No, I'm kidding. Actually, if you were to play a city builder, I would be like City Skylines. Like, there's no reason to go back to SimCity 4. But what do you think of the music?
It was super chill.
That's
Like,
the it's a relaxing genre. Like,
I dug it. I just sat there and like moved back and forth. I could see setting everything up and getting into like a flow meditative state of just listening to this and going into it.
that's also why this track is on some of my like day job playlists. If I'm having a pretty normal day at work, nothing's pissing me off, this kind of music works well. Um, so yeah, I like it. It's solid outside of the game. It's solid in the game. I enjoy it. But now we can go into your music because obviously you're in a hurry to end the episode, Shannon.
I was teasing, Brian.
I know.
So
Yeah.
my music choice is Every Day is Night, and that comes from Valhalla, a Cyberpunk Bartender action adventure game.
I'm sorry, you mean Va 11 Hall A?
Yes, and
Uh,
Valhalla is a wonderful little indie title where you play a bartender, and it's a mix of the way think about it in my head. It's a mix of Snatcher and visual novel and bartending simulator all in one little package.
you act like bartending simulator is a genre.
It is now. And the song I picked is one of the ones that you can choose to play because you can make a playlist before you start every day. And it's kind of the theme that people think of when they think of Valhalla. And I really enjoy it. So let's get into it and see you on the other side. And we're back. So what you think of it, Brian?
So, I love this game. Uh, actually, I I first played it. I was having a couple of years ago. I was having like a depressing day. I think I was
Hmm.
sick or something. I remember I was home from work and I was laying on the couch and I was like, I'm gonna play a game, and I had it on my Vita, and I was like, I'll give this a try. And the mood I was in, that was the perfect game, and I fell in love with it. And anyway, as a result, like I have an attachment to the soundtrack, and I love this song. I love
It's so
all the
good.
songs on the soundtrack. That game is so good, and its music so good. And yeah, like this is a great one. Good pick.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I love Valhalla, and Michael Kelly, or Garrod as he's known. He just it fit the game so perfectly, but it also just was really good listening. And you hear it, and it does have kind of like a techno-y nightwave feeling. Like you could totally see this being in a cyberpunk bar.
Yeah, I was gonna
Like,
say, or I was like YouTube, like chill, like light wave techno playlist
yeah,
things.
absolutely, and it fits perfectly. And you talked about. I just want to gush on Valhalla a little bit, real quick, because the music is first rate. The writing is great. It's made by people from Venezuela, and you can tell because the game really tackles like the coup in Venezuela and how it like how people come into power and the military police, and there's just so much there that's in 2016 that they talked about in this game.
And the visual,
And
man, like the
oh,
character designs and this that it just
it's
one of the
so
most
good.
stylistic games I played in a in my life. I love it. But then again, I eat up cyberpunk shit. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
and
a Blade Runner bartender thing. Yeah, sign me up.
absolutely. The game is so fascinating, and the endings are all great. The characters are all memorable and interesting. Even Stream Chan isn't that annoying. Um, even though she's probably the most annoying character in the game. And it captures so much, and it's just so good, and the music is so good. And every time I hear this song, I just instantly get transported into a bar that smells like talking corgis, and
I
it's beautiful.
It's funny when you first sent me this track, like I picked SimCity,
Mhm.
and then you sent me this, and I was like, oh look, I picked a simulator game, but he didn't. But then I completely spaced on the fact that Valhalla. I always think of it as more like an adventure visual novel,
Mhm.
but it is a simulator, like at least a hybrid. So I mean,
Yes.
isn't that in the name somewhere? Like Cyberpunk Bar Simulator or something?
Cyberpunk Bartender Action is what it's called, but I think
Action.
it counts as a simulator or something. I don't know. I don't know
Everything's a
what genres.
simulator. Everything is a simulator role playing game, sir.
Uh yeah, Wiki says simulation visual novel, so I'll go with it. Um Also, now I can't actually get you to go away with this dang talk about no genres existing. Where can we find you, Brian?
Talking about genres, no. You can find me on Twitter at Brian C Nerd. Same handle, for Instagram and everywhere. And then of course, the Misplaced Pod, YouTube and Twitter and other social media accounts. Which, if you found this podcast, there should be links to them there. Um, but yeah, you can find me in all those places, and I sometimes talk about stuff or post pictures, and oftentimes I don't because I recently became a father and I'm tired all the time.
Hey, that's all part of the experience, You'll be less tired in like a year.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
I'm told I can sleep through the night in like February, so it hearing that just quick aside, had the kid 2 weeks ago, coming to that realization at the hospital where it's like, oh, they you have to wake them up to feed them every 3 hours until they're like 4 months old, and I'm like, cool, so I can sleep through the night in 2023. Oh my god, I can, like, next year. I I will like I am not going to be able to sleep for 8 hours consecutively until next year.
Oh goodness.
But you know what? I'm going to continue to participate and bring people podcasts because I care about our 12 listeners.
Listen, I think we're up to like 16 on the reg. All right, got to give us our credit. Uh,
How about you, Shannon? Where can they find you?
they can find me at Teeps the Great on Twitter, and they can also find me at Teeps the Great at Twitch.tv. Recently, I have played through Mass Effect 1, and then I started working on 2 and got burnt out. So then I'm like, you know what? We're going to take a quick diversion, and I'm playing through Symphony of the Night right now. I just got to the Reverse Castle. So I'm going to make a decision to either finish Mass Effect 2 or finish uh, Symphony of the Night, since that's kind of like a good halfway point of the game is the Reverse Castle. And turns out that video game is still really good. It's still a really
So
good
good.
game.
So good. I replay it like once every couple of years. Very good game.
Yeah, it's awesome. But that is where you can find me. And with that, I believe that is it. Brian, do you have anything else you want to talk about?
Nope. Our next episode, we are undecided on what we were going to talk about. Although we did recently decide we are going to have an episode where we discuss the underrated PlayStation 3 cult favorite Tokyo Jungle.
Absolutely. You know, the game where a Pomeranian can kill a hyena.
Hey, I have you ever seen a Pomeranian fight a hyena? Because I haven't. So
True.
there is no science to back up the. It's all guesses, right? It's like
I
you have
hate
to
this.
experiment to prove a hypothesis, or you can't just say, "Well, probably." That's not science.
Fair enough. And with
For
that,
all
good
we
night.
know, all hyenas are allergic to Pomeranian hair, like deathly allergic, but we don't know because we've never put them in the same room.
Maybe that is the truth. It's just Pomeranians are biological bombs that will just kill the hyena population. But with that, everybody, keep your hyenas safe from the Pomeranian menace and have a wonderful evening or morning or whatever it is when you listen to this.
Week,
Week
life.
is good. Yeah, life. Have a great rest of your life. Yeah, it's good.
We need an exit phrase, but anyway, later.
Adios.